Welcome to today's Explainer. Let's just go ahead and rewind our minds back to January 2021 for a second. You know, the financial world was experiencing this absolute historical anomaly. Out of nowhere, just this massive wave of retail investors completely flooded consumer trading apps like Robinhood. From the outside looking in, it looked like this spontaneous uprising, right? A really fun, rebellious moment in finance. But beneath the surface, it was actually the perfect storm for a deeply entrenched psychological trap.
$500. Yep, $500. During that frenzy, a single share of GameStop shot up to nearly $500, literally multiplying its value by over 100 times in just a matter of weeks. It was absolutely staggering to watch play out in real time. In the media, online, everywhere, it looked exactly like an anti-establishment revolution, just ordinary people taking on Wall Street hedge funds and beating them at their own game. But as the initial hype died down and the smoke finally cleared, a very different, much darker reality began to emerge. The revolution was quietly evolving into something else entirely, catching a lot of really well-meaning people in a psychological snare.
Section 1. Wall Street's Arcade Illusion.
So, was this an anti-establishment revolution or a dark reality? You know, the initial narrative of the underdog winning was incredibly intoxicating. It feels great to see everyday people making money at the expense of massive institutions. But once that massive price spike subsided, the whole narrative shifted. The traders who actually stayed in the game weren't just executing a financial trade anymore. They were getting sucked right into a reality distortion field.
Which brings us to Section 2, the video game mindset.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this is where it gets fascinating. The investors who remained proudly adopted a brand new title, apes. And what makes this group so incredibly unique is that they brought an entirely new language to financial markets, a language heavily borrowed from video game culture. On forums, these traders were constantly comparing the stock market to massive multiplayer online games. Stuff like RuneScape or World of Warcraft, they approached buying and holding a stock not as a financial calculation, but basically as an in-game mechanic. They were assuming that, hey, if you can spend 40 hours mindlessly grinding boars in a virtual forest to level up, you can easily conquer Wall Street.
That logic became the absolute blueprint for their strategy. Step 1, grind virtual tasks for years. Step 2, make an arbitrary number go up. And Step 3, outlast any hedge fund. The apes claim that because they had spent literally years doing repetitive virtual tasks in video games just to make a digital number go up, they possessed this superhuman patience. They assumed the financial markets possessed a video game symmetry, you know? They thought of the market like a fair match against a final boss that they could defeat simply by refusing to log off.
Section 3. Man versus the machine.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is it exposes the fatal flaw in their strategy. Look at the sheer contrast of this supposed epic battle. On one side, you have the human retail traders. They're deeply ideological, they are making these highly emotional vows to never sell their shares, bonding over intricate online lore and inside jokes. But on the exact opposite side, you have their true opponent, high-frequency trading algorithms. This side is just cold, automated math. It runs on servers, blinking with LED lights, with zero human presence whatsoever. The vital thing to understand here is that these automated systems were completely unaware of the online lore, the memes, or the emotional vows to never sell. It was a completely asymmetrical match.
And here is the harsh truth. There are no hidden Easter eggs in the stock market. The market is not a video game. There is absolutely no underlying programming forcing the other side to play by predictable, fair rules. And for sure, there is no secret Easter egg waiting to be found that will magically trigger a massive win for the retail trader. It just doesn't exist. So when does a political movement become a gambling addiction? This is the pivotal transition point, right here. This is the exact moment the illusion of a fair, digital fight spirals straight into the dark reality of a psychological addiction.
Section 4. HODL culture as addiction.
What originally started as a calculated, albeit high-risk financial bet, mutated incredibly rapidly into tribal law. Inside the community, phrases like diamond hands and HODL stopped being funny inside jokes and literally became strict mandates. If you sold your shares to take a profit, which, let's remember, is the entire point of investing, you were instantly labeled a traitor. If the stock price cratered, losing immense value, the community aggressively reframed it. It wasn't a loss, it was a tasty dip to buy even more. And incredibly, when the actual companies they invested in slid into real corporate bankruptcy, the community refused to admit defeat.
Actually, scratch that. They didn't just refuse, they twisted dire legal filings into elaborate hidden clues predicting a secret merger meant to make them overnight billionaires. Every single loss was rationalized away just to avoid the pain of admitting defeat.
Section 5. The Blackjack Fallacy.
This descent into massive financial conspiracies really served as the ultimate coping mechanism, perfectly captured by this idea. It's like intentionally hitting on a 3-1 at a blackjack table and demanding the dealer hand over the chips. I mean, that brilliantly illustrates the absurdity of their logic. They completely misunderstood how basic market mechanics actually work. Take short sales, for example. In a short sale, an investor borrows shares betting the price will drop. That means their potential risk is theoretically infinite if the price just keeps climbing. Unlike a casino game, which has strict, hard-capped mathematical limits. These traders were playing a game, completely ignoring the fundamental rules of mathematics and finance, and then demanding they be rewarded simply because of their ideological purity.
True wealth isn't built on finding hidden rules in a broken game. It's built on walking away from the table. Look, the gamification of Wall Street was a thrilling narrative, no doubt, but it ultimately trapped thousands of people in a psychological loop of their own making. By understanding these psychographics and recognizing these psychological traps, you can navigate modern finance with a clearer, much more analytical mindset. So I want to leave you with this final thought. The next time your phone buzzes with the notification telling you some random stock is quote-unquote going to the moon, ask yourself, are you making a calculated investment, or are you just putting another quarter into the arcade machine?